Peace, everybody. This is Piensa from Nomadic Massive, welcoming you to Autres. As we make our way towards Nomadic Massive's 20th anniversary, we thought it was important to highlight some of the individuals and the communities that helped shape and inform hip-hop culture and continue to inspire us to this day. I'm here with my co-hosts, Waahli, aka Salvador Waahli, Butta Beats, aka The Facts, and Ali Sepu, aka Chili Hendrix. You're now part of the Universal Super Fam. Let's go.
Hold on. Pardon me, sir, did you say something? Hold on. What the hell are you talking about? Hold on.
Pero si ya hemos empezado.
And we'd like to welcome, first of all, dub poet, percussionist, community leader, and all-around wise man.
Rastafari.
Please give it up for Zibz Blackcurrent. And continuing on with the extended family from Nomadic Massive, everybody make some noise. Put your hands together. That's how we do it. 4, MC extraordinaire, producer galore, and community leader as well, running the studio program, No Bad Sound Studios in Maison des Jeunes de la Côte des Neiges. We got with us Jai Nitai Lotus. The first thing we want to ask you guys is, this is to both of you, where were you born? Where did you grow up? What communities were you around when you grew up? And what was it like for you growing up here in Montreal?
So I moved around a lot as a kid. So I was born in Montreal. Live all over the place. Born in the east, P9, then moved to the west. My first years elementary school I moved 5 times in 6 years. So I was used to really starting over, having a hard time with that. And, dealing with those types of, issues and insecurities about, I was raised like a Hindu, in my household, and my name was different, everything. So everywhere I went, I was starting over. People were looking at me different in that way. And, until like early high school, getting involved in hip hop and sort of found like a place for that. But I moved around a lot, been around a lot of different people, seen a lot of different stuff, some of it kind, some of it not so kind. I was very blessed with a great family though, a strong family, a big family of 5. I experienced a lot of love, so I know how to give love because I received a lot of love. So I'm blessed still. I'm very blessed,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Yes, I. Neil Zibz Blackcurrent, born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yeah, I moved to Antigua when I was 3 years old actually. Spent 4 years there. I started school there. One of my brothers was born there, then returned to St. Vincent, and my mom left us with her sister and my grandparents, her parents, and came to Canada. And I didn't see her for the next 8 years. Came to Canada at 14, lived in NDG, Upper Lachine below the tracks. In an Italian neighborhood. Yeah. What they call St. Raymond's now. Montreal, them days was like Bill 101, So my parents put us in French immersion, so got a little Francais, and was really confused after a while. Ended up in an English school because I was struggling, man. It seems like they wanted me to graduate high school at 35 or something.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, I was able to talk my way into the English high school because we had eligibility, and I finished high school at Westmount High and met some friends there, and, some introduced me to punk rock, and, strangely enough, Cinema 5, where Waahli and I, we worked for Head and Hands, and Head and Hands used to be in Cinema 5. Cinema 5 back in the day was a place where people gathered. It was a repertory theater, and that's where I met musicians. And one musician invited me to jam with them, Swinging Relatives. You asked me for months. I finally did. And that was my connection, how I really started playing live music. Well, prior to that, the friends from Westmount High had instruments in their basement. My friend Brian Neville, he was a drummer. His brother Chris played bass. He had congas there. So that's really where I first touched the congas. And yeah, and then, you know, Shank, punk rock reggae band, asked me to come and toast with them, you know what I mean? Then it was 86 when I joined Swinging Relatives, and first show at Union Ballroom, anti-apartheid show, March of 1987. And shit changed from there.
That was the beginning of the end.
Yeah. And then just been chasing whatever, just trying to find self and be with self, you know what I mean?
As a teenager coming in, because 14, you know, you already have a lot of life experience from your home country or even the two countries where you already had lived.
Yeah.
Do you remember that moment when you came here? Do you remember what season it was?
For
and
sure.
What were the feelings that you were going through that first week?
Okay, the first week I couldn't tell you about, but the first night and the second day I can recollect.
Okay.
June 3rd, about 11 in the evening time. It was 13 degrees. I never felt cold like that before. I was wearing short sleeves and I was like, fuck, it's cold, man. But the next day was like perfectly beautiful, warm, nice, wide streets. I mean, like, this is Canada.
Cold nights, hot days.
You know, this is nice. My mom took us to Trenholm Park. It was the first park I went to. Trenholm and Sherbrooke and NDG. And it was St. Jean-Baptiste. You know, now I recollect it was St. Jean-Baptiste. So yeah, it was kind of like a holiday. It felt like, you know, it felt like chill. Like more like a Sunday, like nobody's at work. I remember that. Like
The blue and white, baby.
you know, you just kind of adjust. I don't, you know, going to the park every day with my brother, just kind of hanging out, kicking ball. You know what I mean? Just like, wow, this is Canada, and you know, fundamentally, like reconnecting with my parents. That was like, that was something, man. Like, yo, man, you've been away for such a long time, but it's like they're part of you still, you know. But it was new beginnings. It was new beginnings.
And Jai, I just want to touch on something you said. You know, you said you grew up in the Hindu faith. You know, your name was different from maybe what people associated the way you look or something like that. Can you touch more upon that history in your family? And
so
how you dealt with that?
Yeah. So for me, I was raised like deep. It's more specifically Vaishnava, but Hindu is like what people are like, all right, I get it, you know? Yeah. So I throw it like that. It's like my dad would be like, psh, specify, you know? My pops would be like, so I'm doing it for you, okay? So, so I was raised going to temples, you know, like wearing kurtas and going to temples and praying in Sanskrit and like bhajan and kirtans, which are like spiritual music in my household since I was a kid. Some of my most beautiful memories was being in the temple on Piensa and being in my mom's lap, and there's like 20 drums going, boom, people, you know, call and response, chanting, and you know, like that was deep. That's deep in me. It really instilled in me in philosophy. Like you know, I'm 14, able to talk about things that most people don't think about yet. Like just on like layers of like of life and the science of life, really. So I was raised with that in my household. And then when I started going to public school, it's not so kind, you know. So you start going, especially that I was moving from school to school. I was like that new kid. The teacher would be like, stall on the name, and I'd be like, yo, real quick to be like, yeah, that's me over here. This is how you say it. Let's go next. Feelings like that. I started picking up bullying because of it, because I was like going through this sort of process of like, just, I'm smart. I'm paying attention. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm seeing the people who are targeted. I see the people who are doing the targeting. So I was super insecure. So I started picking up, well, I know that if I don't want to be on the receiving end, so I'm going to.
It's the first day in jail.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Going swinging, baby.
Yeah. And so I was super insecure. I started getting into that space. But it's a funny thing when I'm so grateful for it now, you know, because, you know, the thing about hip hop, when it came into my life and the way that it did through school, through friends, it not immediately, but once I started seeing artists that were really themselves, they're talking about like science of self and all the stuff that I was raised with, it really like allowed me to really embrace all those things I was insecure about.
You saw parallels?
Yeah, I started being like, well, actually, that's where my strength is. Like, that's where I'm different. That's what's gonna give me extra potency in this world. Everywhere I went, people would be around me, and they would already be telling me like, yo, you're different. Like the older people would be like, you different in a good way. The other people would be like, damn, you want to talk about this? You know, we'd be getting lit up in parks and all types of things, and they'd be like, what the, this dude is bugging. What is he talking about, you know? And sort of being in this space. But the more I learned to embrace those things is the same thing we passing on to the young generation is like, yo, the things that you're vulnerable about, insecure about, those are actually your strengths. So if you like live in that, you're going to be a beacon of light and inspiration for other people. So I was able through time, you know, first of all, by not associating with certain people too, and being like, all right, like, who am I? Like, I'm not trying to impress anybody else. I need to ground myself. You know, I was blessed, like I said, to go home. Sometimes I'd be in super intense scenarios and go home and I was loved. So like, that's a lot. Some people never get that. So for me, it played that balance of that. So, you know, when hip hop came in and black music in general, it really impacted me in a different way. And the people who were around were super mixed, and everybody was, you know, I felt less like an outsider in this way. And that, you know, gradually as I got older, I wish it would have happened younger, like some of the youth that I'm dealing with now. I would have been blessed for it to happen at 14 or 15. But man, if it happened at 18, 19, that's still kind of blessed. Some people live their whole life and never tap into, you know, their strengths or embrace these parts of them that are different. So, you know, I always say, like, when people ask me about where I'm from, I'm like, yo, my experience is a combination of like deep, like, spirituality from the East and a lot of black culture, like hip hop and everything that surrounds that. And it really infused the way that I talk, the way that we move, the way that we, you know, create art and music and all types of things. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. But
man, I feel you on that, man.
Yeah. Question for Jai. It's really interesting what you were just breaking down in regards to communities. But a question for you, and what was like the most like significant hip hop moment for you, and what made you realize that at that point, you know, you wanted to participate in this culture in the way that you actually, you know, are today?
I'd say there's two. There's probably two, and this is why, like. And one of them I always bring up as an example, like you never, like someone, you know, 10 people could tell you something, and if you're not ready, you don't hear it, right? Yeah. And one person says it in the right time, and you needed to hear it from him or her. And then all of a sudden it's like click. So I remember I was writing raps with one of my friends at the time, and I was like, you know, closet about it. It wasn't like now, you know, like write your first rap, put it out tomorrow. It was, you know, like it was such a process, you know. I didn't even know how like, I didn't know how the record was made, you know. I had a mic and I could plug it into the tape, you know, not even just through air. I'd be rapping it, making, you know, dub tapes of like little breaks, you know. And I remember rhyming with my friend. He was a good writer, but he didn't have swag. Like, he had no swag in it. And his brother was a musician. He was a blues guitarist, okay? And he liked the roots. So he knew a few things about some rap stuff. And he heard us rapping one day, and he said to his brother, he's like, you don't have it, but you have something to me. And straight up.
Ice Cube in the vein.
And for me, that was super blessed. It gave me so much confidence. I was failing in school. School was not giving me confidence in that context. I didn't think I was smart in that way, you know? So that one little moment where he said that really kind of like flipped the script for me. It really made me be like, damn, like, I have something.
Was it raps first or was it
rap
beats?
first. Rap and performance, man, because at that time it was like the same thing. Like, we were rapping in ciphers, and then I'll fast forward to a house party in NDG, and I'm not telling any of my homies. And my homies is, you know, they kind of in it, you know. I don't want to get into all that too much, but then they involved in a lot of stuff, a lot of energy that was pretty intense at the time when we were going to some party and people were doing a bunch of, you know, things there. And we were in the back, and a cipher popped off, and one dude knew I rap, and everybody was spitting, and he's like, yo, spit, man, spit from them. And I spit, you know, and I just went super hard. And everyone was like, shit.
Was it
Damn.
mostly written stuff?
Yeah,
or
that
like-
was written for sure, 100% written. And I just went in over the beatbox or whatever, and
Shout out to the beatbox.
yeah, for real, shout out. I can't remember the dude beatboxing, but everybody was just so lit up, like, man, we didn't know you could do that. You holding it from us. And then I went back to the hood with it and started showing it. People's moms were around, like, oh, this kid, this dude can rap, you know, and this type of energy, you know. And even at that time, because of the spiritual upbringing, my thing was never really about. It was about, at that time, was super influenced by Wu-Tang, so it was like really like science, all types
5%.
of things, you know, like a lot of that too, that was similar to a lot of what I was raised on in a different way, you know, so I felt like there was a lot of parallels.
We spoke to Narcy yesterday, and you know, of course, he made a lot of those parallels between the Muslim culture he grew up in, and of course, you know, the version that was projected in hip hop through Nation of Islam and all that, and making those spiritual connections, you know,
Right.
and finding your place a little bit through that as well. So it's interesting you make that correlation.
I can see that this is like a conduit to having a voice, to having an identity, to finding a sense of community. And I wanted to ask you, how did you take that and translate it into your own community work that you do now with the youth that we're, you know, so...
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just almost from every perspective, like in and outside of music. For me, I'm an all-in guy. Like we go. Like there's no time, man. Like that's how I feel. Like we don't time. Like I don't have time to give you to, you know, it depends how old you are. You know, the younger ones you could be a little bit more gradual with it. But if if you're showing up, you know,
Interest, yeah.
if you're showing up, then I'm like, to me, it's about all those moments, the right things, the right pushes, the right level of understanding, not to judge and criticize them, but to be constructive and always show them that there's space to grow. Because we all know this. I don't care how long we're doing it. If we want to continue to be doing it and doing it in a way that's inspiring to us and others, we need to continue to grow.
If you manage to inspire somebody,
Yeah.
they might inspire somebody that you weren't able to reach, right?
Exactly.
Because that's the way, you know, the
Well, like you
multiplication
said,
happens.
10 people could tell you something, and then the
Yeah,
next
that
the
one
11th was the
person.
one.
Trust me, I see it all the time. Like I have a joke with Yamasato, shout out to Yamasato at MBS, where I've been telling him this thing for like, I'm not gonna get specific, some technical music thing. I've been telling him like, yo, this is, the power in this is like that, da, 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 da. And then he hears Solange say it, and he's like, yo, he comes back and tells me. I was like, bro, don't talk to me, man. I'm like, bro, no. I mean, yo, it's so, and the thing, and yo, and the funniest thing, so now I say it all the time, yo, if Solange said it, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's true. But learning, caring about other people was always part of it. So it was natural for me to do. Everybody told me my whole life, even when I was way too young, like, you should be like dealing with young people. And because I was around an environment that was very similar to the youth that I'm dealing with right now, I could connect with them. I understood what they were going through to a certain extent. Do you know what I mean? And I could relate to them, and I wouldn't be afraid of scenarios. I wouldn't be, you know what I mean? I wouldn't overjudge in the context. Yeah, so I feel like it felt very natural for me. I feel like it felt like it was gonna be a part of my path at some point. You know how things line up like that. So, yeah.
But at the same time, it seems like also you had like, you know, great support at home, you know, to translate
Definitely.
that to the community, you know, model that you are in the leadership position, you know? Because, you know, coming back home and imagine, like you were saying, some people have no fathers, you know what I'm saying? So coming back home, no fathers, they're looking outside for models, you know, and sometimes it's very hard when you were born with it and you had that support. I think it translates into the work that you do, and, you know, respect to that. But one thing I wanted to come back just before we move, did you come back home and spit a rap to your family?
Yo, my mom gave me my name.
Okay.
Yeah, cause the first one.
Amazing.
Now it's just my name.
Yeah.
But
Wait, hold on.
yeah, check.
What was your first name?
Okay, now the first rap name was given to me in Duff Court in Lachine.
Let's hear it. Can
by
we hear
a homie,
it?
And
Can we have it?
And it was Jedi.
Jedi.
They call me Jedi because all the Jamaican cats is like Nitai. They would call me Wu Tai. They would call me all types of other things, right? And so, and then they were like, and then one time this brother, he was actually a break dancer at the time and a graphic writer. You know, but he was involved in a lot of other things. And he was like, yo, we're gonna call you Jedi. But then like, bro, I didn't really want that name because I was like, there was already like Jedi Mind Tricks at the time and different artists.
It sounds like a graph name anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Four letters.
Yeah,
you know?
because he was graphing it for me because I wasn't nice at graphing still to this day, you know. Like it can translate across a lot of
It's
things.
the thumbs, it's the thumbs,
But
man,
if
it's the
I
thumbs,
drive
yeah.
a drawing contest with my 7-year-old daughter, you might not know who drew what, you know? But yeah, so Jedi was the name, and then I was like, nah, Jedi Mind Tricks. Like I'm not even into Star Wars. Like in all fairness, yo, my bad. Whoever's listening, bro.
Shout out Dr. Mad.
I'm gonna get canceled. Imagine for that. Hey, that'd be crazy. But and then I went home and I was convincing my mom they didn't grow up with they didn't like hip hop, but my parents they're dope, man. Like my dad was a jazz musician. He was like, you know, before he like renounced it all for spiritual, like devotional music. So like he was like deep into it.
They were open though.
Yeah,
right?
they were so open and like, yo, so blessed. And my mom, we would talk about all types of things, and I would try to convince her. I'd bring the most positive raps I could find, bro. And I'd be like, you look what he said. That's Guru. You know what? Yeah, Guru. We know about Guru, right? So I'm like, he said this. And then I asked her, you know, what do you think would be a good rap name? She was like, well, what about Lotus? Because, you know, Vishnu was sprouted out of a lotus, all this. And then I was like, I'm gonna go with that. And I would just go heavy on the T, so it was more like Lotus than like Lotus, you know?
Okay.
So, right? Yeah. So I was like, cool. But yeah, that's how it came to that. And then one step further was I was on MySpace. And then brothers started being like, yo, can I use this beat of yours? And it was Flying Lotus. And then I was like, damn, I got to switch something up. Like at moments, everybody out here knew me at that time. But I was like, I'm going to put my name in front of that. And no one could take that away from me. So I put Jai
I was
Nitai.
Louis Logic for a couple of years.
Louis Logic.
Until we saw the Louis Logic from the
Damn.
States. Yeah.
Wow.
It's all right. Name changes.
Yo, Zibz.
Yes, I.
My man, how are you?
I'm good, man.
Nice to see you.
Yes, I.
It's been a minute, but I'm happy to reconnect as always.
Yeah,
We have a
man.
long winding story, me and you.
Yeah,
I know. You know, I remember when I met you. I met you at Community when they were still doing it on Saint Zotique, Saint Dominique. That's the
The early
first time
days.
I saw you as a performer first, and I think we shared the stage the same day that I met you.
Mhm.
So we went down to that rickety basement, remember?
Yes, man.
With
The
those
basement.
with those low things. I think we burned a spliff or something like that, and we got along splendidly, ladies and gentlemen.
It's good times. Trust.
And then fast forward a little bit more, something I didn't know when I sort of, I always consider falling into community work. That's how I describe it. I ran across you in NDG at J2K.
Uh-huh.
You know, I have a relationship with MBS, obviously, but then when I went to J2K, I obviously saw a parallel. This is at the beginning of like community outreach, like hip hop based community outreach in Montreal for those who are listening, you know, early 2000s. And so I admired that you know, you were you're an older statesman.
Mature.
But I admired, but it's a rare thing to see someone from even an older generation. Like I don't consider you old either, but you know, like in terms of I feel like we spent a lifetime validating hip hop culture here in Montreal in order to do this kind of outreach work that now is sort of celebrated. And I just wanted to see just hear from you, like what you saw, the values that you saw in it, and sort of like the philosophy that you used in terms of when you approached it and advocated, you know, for it continuing. Because there was a lot of backlash, you know, in those early years for like.
Well, it's feelings, man, and sense of belong. You know, coming to Montreal, all I heard people say, well, you have an accent. Even though, you know what I mean? And that's all I remember really hearing. But, you know, when we went to parties, it was like black parties. And coming from the Caribbean, you know, we listened to everything.
Yeah.
Calypso.
Celine Dion.
Pop
Big in
music,
Jamaica, right?
pop music, you know what I mean? Before Celine Dion, we're thinking, you know what I mean? So I remember the first thing as far as hip-hop was Rapper's Delight. The guys in the neighborhood, Italian guys arguing and saying it's Raper's Delight. I said, man, it's Rapper's Delight, man.
What's wrong with you?
It's, you know? So at that point in time, I realized like the difference of like black music like we black people, we understood what was happening as far as music change, and it was our identity. So rap was always part of me because I love James Brown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And with the Sugar Hill Gang, like having to fight to say it's not Raper's Delight, you know, realize like there was that divide, that, you know what I mean? So I always held on to hip hop as I music.
Yeah.
But I'm a reggae man because I remember walking from school and stopping at Straker's, which was the record shop, and seeing red, gold, and green and the smoke from the chalwa. And that just kind of stuck in my mind. And the man in them up the street, the young Ras who plays soccer, smoke weed, and every time I pass, he'll always greet me. So that's like my first connection of Rastafari as a youth. So coming to North America now, you know, the music was black music, you know, like rhythm and blues, you know what I mean?
All of the above,
disco, you know, all that.
But it did include reggae and
For
dancehall,
sure,
of course,
reggae was
right?
always, because I listened to reggae from the time I grew up in St. Louis
Even
in the
those parties,
70s.
you know. And was it like when you were mentioning the punk rock scene as well too? Were those coinciding, like those?
Yeah,
movements?
because all my friends, all my Westmount friends, their album collection was reggae music and punk music, and everything coming out of England at that time. So that's what we listened to. We dressed like that, and that's why Brent approached me in the first place. He said, "Are you a musician?" Because we dress like the musician. Yeah, you know what I mean? So hip hop, you know, like moving in this time, reggae music, punk rock moving in this time, that's what spoke to me in my generation as a youth coming up. So, you know, and my brother got into hip hop hard. As a matter of fact, his band, my younger brother Dre, that's the one. His group was called Upfront Massive. And he was a rapper. My brother's a good writer. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, so run, you know.
we worked so hard on that day, bro. Like 3 days of debate.
So Run DMC, you know what I mean? He was a big fan of Rakim, you know what I mean? So all his music, we shared a room. I heard his music. So that was my connection to hip hop.
I blast the Roman alphabet to pieces when my flow releases. Kidnap the dictionary, free the words, and then I write my thesis. Expose all the elements, non-hesitant. My punchlines never punch out until you feel the excellence. A polyglot, you probably not. You ought to let loose like Mardi Gras and lottie-dottie down the Autobahn. No limit, I stay prolific like Bollywood. I see you falling back like you Waahli would, and you probably should. I'm a solid good, explosive molecules. When I break the ice, you can shake the dice. Twice as nice, bet all your chips and trust it will suffice. The game is grown now. Blow the candles cause the cake is iced. Chop you with the pads and funk you with the brakes. The secret's been revealed. I let the fun out on the first take, like it's my birthday. The world is now a better place. Better late than never. Let it play and marinate.
Speak your truth, stand behind it. Where you from, where you at, how you gon' find it?
C'est la source et sa valeur. Main dans les airs, les pendules sont à l'heure.
Toute bagarre nous dit livré. Toujours baquer le côté le sorti, côté le pralé.
Siempre fresco, perfecto. ¿Dónde están, dónde van, cómo le llaman?
You said that you were in a bunch of bands and stuff like that, but when you became like started doing outreach work and stuff and community work, specifically in NDG, when was that? Around what time was that?
2004. Yeah, 2004. I saw the ad in the paper, and it was just for an animated him. And wow, that looks like me. At that point in time, I was working doing demolition for construction.
Yeah, main d'oeuvre.
You don't know, you know.
Yeah.
So
Breaking the walls.
I fell into it, and you know, like getting into that job, you know, because of my age and the stage of my life, you know, certain things was just automatic. I just kind of took charge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just brought all the elements of what all my family from community.
Yeah.
You mentioned all those music styles and obviously the common denominator, despite, you know, beyond the fact that there's a history of music and you can't speak of hip hop without speaking of reggae. You can't speak of punk rock in a way in England without speaking of reggae, right? exactly. Rebel music, right? Exactly, right? So all these, you know, anybody who digs further will understand the connections. These are not separate entities. But, and there's always the message, you know, approach behind it. And there's a community approach, you know, to the way the culture manifests itself. And so, like, I know that doing the youth work is almost an extension
100%.
of what we're writing, of what we're talking about, of how
100%.
we meet together in these
Yeah,
musical
yeah, yeah.
spaces, right? What would you say that it gave you?
Purpose.
Purpose.
Purpose. Like, I was floating, man. I was doing different things. Telling things at home were the way they were at home. You know what I mean? We were basically, my father provided. My father worked all the time. But, here we thrown into this North American culture and with no briefing. No
Right,
fucking
yeah,
memo.
no prep.
No memo. No memo.
They don't
no
put that on the immigration
No,
paper.
you know what I mean? And just like, here, figure it out,
Good luck.
So we're just pretty much on our own in that way. So coming into community work and all the experience I had at Upper Point in that time, it's just like I was able to transport what I knew into it, and it made sense. Like just working with the youth, just sharing value and sharing stories and debunking certain things, and you know what I mean? Just like bigging them up, like really and truly bigging them up. It was really a place to give love and show love. You know what I mean? And they responded. They responded by, just coming every day and just like acknowledging your presence and just building relationship differently with the different ones over the time. So a real purpose, it's working at those places made me understood that it was very important to have children. It was very, very important, like it came to me like just a message, It's not an ego thing. It's like a duty. And, working with the youths, I felt like I was doing my just duty. So it never really felt like work.
Right, which is the objective.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I felt like at this point in time where I said like, I've been very privileged that they give me an opportunity for me to learn so much and exchange with so many people. And what I want to transmit to the youth is that, you are the prize. Like, you are that person. And you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And just to reinforce that confidence. My thing is like, we're building confidence here. Whatever you choose to do, you take up the responsibility and you do it. And you just be your authentic self. That's what I got from, that made me like, I can grow calluses on my consciousness. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a bar right there.
It is. It is. And to take that even further, this is to both of you now. The whole thing about being horizontal in the approach. And what I mean by that is, youth working with younger people is not about you coming in with all this knowledge and dropping it from up top like a parachute, and telling them, look, you got to figure this out with all these keys I gave you, right? There's something there where you're getting a lot from the youth yourself, definitely in my experience, it was always an exchange,
100.
And you go home some nights thinking, man, everything I thought something was isn't. Now I got to rethink everything. And you rediscover things about yourself as well, right? How important is that exchange, and how often, do you feel that it happens? Because I think a lot of people, unfortunately, the organizations, oftentimes the way they're set up for exactly, right? Top down, temporary, right? Things, it's not a sort of a sustainable long-term vision. It's like entertain the kids a little bit, but then make sure they go to school and this and that, and after school they could play ping pong a little bit, when so much more is happening in these programs that actually make an effort and care, right? And many times, I know MBS Studios, I know Maison des Jeunes, I know, Youth in Motion, J2K, West Haven, we're writing our rhymes down, et cetera, et cetera. All these programs, those are homes.
Yeah. Look, this is my J2K shirt.
Well, there you go.
This was designed by big shout out to Fury, Skyfall's Bridging, who they went in studio at the same time, Little Fury.
All right.
But yeah, Fury cuts.
Well, there it is.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, it's like the exchange is real. Big shout out to Rashad. He set me up with my first email.
There you go.
He's
the one who schooled you on it.
Yeah. Rebel Boomerang. Yeah. So, like real exchange, real knowledge sharing, and because I'm as old school as they come in that way. Like, I approach things like molasses going uphill. Lentement. You know what I mean? So, things soaking good. You know? Yeah, so with the youths, they remind you that it's okay, and then what you know and learn is also significant. I was born in the Caribbean and came here as a teenager, so I have two different perspectives, and I always did. And I'm very grateful for that, because I see black youths who were born and raised here, how they're like locked in and they're boxed in. And to me, that's one of the hardest things that I've experienced, being pigeonholed and being narrative what black is. That's why I say I Blackcurrent, I'm present black. So if you talk to me what that is, it's a conversation. It doesn't stop full stop, It's just like, yeah, man, we like the river, we flow, and we learn as we go. So word sound is power, man. I'm telling you, like, all the great artists that inspired I try to really give that respect to through the teaching, through the, spending time with the youths, like excellence, you know what I mean? Really. Not mediocrity, but really is about excellence, and that's growing in itself, because that's just the daily work, man. It doesn't just happen. It never really happens. It's just like you got to be on that to get to the next stage and the next level.
It's the process,
Yes,
always, right?
Yeah.
Always in the process, and the result doesn't even need to happen. The process is the result.
Yeah, man, it's a relay race, man. Just pass that baton, man.
Nomad Sound Studio, was founded by some original members of Nomadic, alongside other people. Also, shout out DJ Side, DJ Movez. And a lot of us in Nomadic worked for a very long time at No Bad Sound. Shout out Dr. Mad.
Just the Maison de Jeunes in general.
Yeah. A lot of different people, right? Too long of a list to unfortunately to shout out right now. But we got mad love in our hearts for everybody.
True.
And but we do, want to commend you on your work for sure. At the moment where you guys got in and moved it to a new location, and you guys did something really amazing with it. How does this horizontal approach work for you as well? Because you really came and structured it in a certain way that hadn't happened before.
I had a vision for it in my mind, but I was like, I'm not doing it alone in the process. I went back, I started explaining, because there's so much beautiful history in that building. And everybody who's a part of that history there is like, that's the best moment of the program is when I was there. Do you know what I mean? And that's natural. That's a natural thing to feel, because that's how you, and I knew there were gonna be, the few that were remaining, there was gonna be attachment still in that way. So I went back to them and I started talking to about it. I started talking about the vision. I started explaining, like, all right, it's gonna be set up like this. We're gonna put this over here. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And then I started engaging them in the process so that they were like, oh, excited about it. And I'm gonna write this company, we're gonna get a sponsorship, and we're gonna get a microphone, and we're gonna get this, and we're gonna get all these other things. So I started writing to places. Road started donating mics to us and different things, and that way to just upgrade it, because it was at that point that it needed a revision. So
not to cut you off, but you use the word engagement, and I think that's like central to success in that type of work, and it goes back to the horizontal thing.
Yeah, right.
It's not a question of like doing it for you.
No,
it's a question of like showing you the way we could do it, and let's do it together, so that eventually actually you won't even need me.
Exactly.
Right? And you can show, right?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what's happened.
So that I was there, and the first year and a half I was in Coutray there, and I was seeing a lot of this
the
grunt
of Lou Piensa.
No. But I was seeing some of the older youth that was
that would pull up
and they were disgruntled about look. It was funny because I went in and Mad was like about to leave to Brazil, and Box, like, I didn't have a lot of preparation. I went in being like, okay, this is a setup. What's up? And I started meeting different people, and then they start telling me, no, that person's too old. This person's too old. This person's too old. and I'm a new person in there, and all of a sudden I'm following these rules.
Because the city with the 18 protocol,
which I don't agree with, but I don't want to like. That's a whole podcast in itself.
I'll do it.
You know,
I'll do it. Fuck that.
Yeah. So I was seeing, well, okay, hold up. So I sat with some of them and I was like, do you know how to record? Nah, I don't know how to record. Okay, like we can teach you how to record, but we're not gonna book you. But you can come and I'll sit with you and I'll show you how to record yourself. I'll make you a list of the cheapest, the most affordable equipment that you can in order to do it like that. And then Carl, shout outs to Carl at Chalet Kent, he took over Vox's position and then he upped how much money there was to do it. And he was on the same page as me with the vision of like, you know, just revamping it and hiring young people in the process. So there was a few that I was seeing were qualified. And in my thing, I was like, all right, I'm not doing for you no more. Forget it. I did the first year and a half and I was like, okay, it's cool, but I don't see enough of you knowing how to do it. And then your age is coming up. And I was feeling the pain, you know, it's such a weird thing. You build a family and then you tell them, all right, you 18 piece. Like it just like, it's super unnatural and it's just not a good thing. And people get really hurt by it and it hurts you too, you know, in the process.
Well, and the necessity exists past
God.
25, 26,
Shit,
you know.
Things just get real when high school ends.
If
Like
anything,
that's
it
the
gets
hardest
worse.
time. Facts,
You just
right?
start realizing what you have. Yeah.
So I through the process of the vision, I kept including everybody that was around in it and being like, this fly for you? You think this is, is this interesting to you? Would you be interested in this? How would this? And a lot of it, I shared similarities in it because for me as an artist, I was always learning new things and trying to progress, and the give and take is like 50-50, like you were saying. Like you get so much back from them, the way they're thinking, the outlook on it, their tricks of what they come with, and their understanding, their body language and interpretation of the music helped me understand the music better and actually enjoy it. And it's so inspiring. Anytime someone comes by and they leave, they're like, whoa, these things are going. So it's so important to support these programs and to support the workers in the program so they don't burn out.
That's the good one,
Yeah.
Let's talk about the challenging work behind, youth working, you know what I'm saying? Like, question to both of you, because we know like community work and especially youth work could be very challenging, and also often, the community workers are underpaid and facing burnout. What challenges right now that, this type of work is facing?
Money.
Money's big one.
Money issues,
That's
man.
a global one, right?
Yeah, everybody trying to get on, and everybody wants to be hot, and it's a generation of superstars, like in the most vain way. Everybody wants to monetize, and so I think within the scheme of things, that's where it becomes really hard for the youths to like see the future, so to speak. And especially after the pandemic, it's been some different dynamics. Like youths don't communicate the same way, they don't come in the same way.
It's almost like a cultural shift,
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're coming close, I think, in time, and I just want to to commend you guys on all the work you've done, and the challenges are definitely many. You can see that you've been able to make something out of nothing, which is really hip hop culture in its finest form. And I want to ask you this question, because you did mention money when we said about the challenges, but outside of the money, what type of solutions are we looking for in this community world? Like what can we wish for? Let's say the money's there, but what else can we use to get us out of these challenges?
For me, community work should be entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? Like making business, making industries instead of like non-profit, it should be for profit. And I feel that's the okie doke that the kind of like social kind of okie doke they've pulled on us, where we're actually depending on handout to keep us in the same position, to keep begging, as opposed to I was talking to Head and Hands about I'll grow up before it was legal. You know what I mean? Like set up businesses where the youths can work, start their own businesses, and my community work should be like I opened a store, so I'm That's my community work. I make a contribution to the community. I supply a service. I employed a few youths. That should be more our mentality about community work. You know what I mean? So we have a community studio. You know, like the approach that Nitai, we teach them so that they can teach the other ones so they can be self-sufficient. Marcus Garvey way. I feel I feel that is really the missing link, and it's taken me so long to figure out like the passivity of
the drop-in youth center type
approach, and the
will.
education that we are supposed to embrace and enhance.
And then it ends at a certain age. It ends at a certain age, and then what?
Then what? Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So continuity. Is important.
So rites of passage, you know what I mean? Like, we knew it in the old school way, you know, discipline, conduct, and really, and those are the things, you know what I mean? But obviously, we have to adjust it to this time. Like, what are the youths into, you know what I mean? If you want to do T-shirts, you know, we get a T-shirt, we get a graphic artist, you know, different. Not everybody is a rap star. Yeah. You know, it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm. So like financial literacy.
100%. Just like
literacy.
Literacy, man. Just like human literacy.
Like, people writing a rap.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just that.
Yeah,
you know, me and Lou worked at James Ling for a couple years, and the reason the school and the school board believed in our program was because of the return rate of certain students that were really academically like not doing well.
Right.
And teachers would come to us and be like, I can't believe it. Like, it's like, well, you should, beautiful. You know?
Shout out to James
but in the same way, you're like, you should have believed it.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And I wish you were more of an ally than just an observer being like, wow, and tapping me on the back and then keep on teaching the same history class or keep on teaching the same, you know, those are things that, you know.
And allowing the freedom for you to be alternative in your approach is the only way it works. Yeah. And it needs to be adapted constantly. Yeah. And I feel sometimes they're just like, oh, yeah, but blah, blah, blah. You're like, no, that ain't not gonna work. Like, I'm not even trying that like anymore. Because I tried it already and it didn't work. And I lost, and then I lost connection with some of the youth because they're like, what, now I'm a specimen? Or I'm like this or this, like, that shit's like, I need a shower after that. You know what I mean? I don't like that feeling of like, you know, and there's a lot of this too. It's like people like in for that. I always say, Vox, right away, he said one thing to me that always rings in my mind. I say to the young people that we hire too, I said, if you're doing this because you want gratitude, you're not in the right place.
Yeah, and you get roasted for it too. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, bless. So I tell them all the time that and I've been grateful because there's been much gratitude and blessings on both sides for everybody involved and all the youth and everybody who's around, you know. But at the same time, like, don't do it for that. People come up to you, yo, it's so great. So great what you're doing. It's just so. I used to do it too. I used to do it too. You know, not like we're talking. Like y'all real. Did it and doing it. So I'm like, they're like, they went and did the summer job. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, what do you do now? Well, I work at a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, right.
I'm in the marketing department.
And they like, why did you leave it? You left it for this. And I'm not knocking someone for doing that. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, I'm like, how long were you doing it for? Yeah. Did you do it for 3 months?
How many grenades did you jump on?
Yeah.
Why were you there? What was your purpose there? What was your reason for being there? You know.
I feel like in relation to what you're just saying, you know, like I feel like in my experience also as your workers that I've seen that also a lot of people who go into that field and that community field is also because they're looking to heal themselves, to heal themselves by doing the youth work. You know, maybe they come from like a crazy past or stuff that, you know, say that need that, you know, but there's many reasons. So that's why sometimes they come, say, like a passage. They come and it's very temporary.
There's like relatability and
exactly.
then there's trauma.
Exactly.
You know, that you didn't deal with and then you're like, you just yoke them in.
Yeah, you know, it's like, you know.
Well, that's true for sure. I've seen that for sure.
Who feels it knows it. Is really where it comes into play, really, man, because, you know, you like you say, you gotta recognize it just by the person's gait as they come in the door. You gotta be able to just like speak telepathically.
For real, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know, because it's just real life. It's just every day for them. You know, you're coming in as a study. You know, you go home and then, you know, you put your notes aside and then you pick it up. But We're always writing. We always documenting. We're always archiving. You know what I mean? Like in real time.
Like the current.
Like the current time.
And on that note,
we know the conversation doesn't end here, but we're gonna end this one here. But it keeps going. Thank you guys so much for being here, for blessing us with your presence. We do appreciate you guys tremendously. Thank you for all the work you've done, you're doing, you're gonna keep doing, and everybody you influence and everybody around you. This is Autres Langues and Nomadic Massive pushing 20. Peace, everybody.
Massive, bless. Yes, sir. Yes,
Hold
sir.
on.
Yes.
Pardon me, sir. Did you say something?